Okay.
Did Aaron press record?
Yeah, recording just started.
Okay, great.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so as personal trainers, and the one thing that sets apart, and I always tell the students is, that the thing that sets apart a good trainer from a great trainer is somebody who can be a personal trainer. And we think of a personal trainer as, oh, everybody's a personal trainer. But in my world, we're not all personal trainers. Some people are just trainers, and others are personal trainers. And it's that personal training side that makes or breaks a great trainer. Because a trainer can go get a certification, go pay 50 bucks, take a weekend course, and go in and start training off of everything you've seen in the gym and in the magazines and on TV and all that kind of good stuff. But a personal trainer knows how to look at an individual's goals, their history, all the different components, and create a program that's specific to just that person. And that's what's really important. We don't want to be cookie cutter trainers that just copy everything that we see and have no idea why we're doing it. So today we're going to start the process of how do we individualize an assessment. Now, we teach an entire 5-week course on this, so we're just going to kind of go through a couple parts and maybe assessments that I think are maybe the most pertinent to talk about today. But understand that this is a big, big topic, and we're going to whittle it down to something really, really small today. So, any questions so far? And if any questions come up along the way about anything outside of what I'm talking about, that's fine too. We can address that too. So, okay. So, as you see up here, I wrote, if you aren't assessing, you're just guessing. And to me, that kind of sums up everything, is if you aren't doing an assessment, then you really don't know what you're doing as far as training. So, I mean, how many times have you been in a gym and you see the trainers walking around and they're looking at themselves in the mirror, looking all around the room, not even paying attention to your client? Watch a gym sometime, and you'll see the trainers that know how to personalize a program as opposed to just showing up and putting somebody through a workout, right? Ruben, I know you know what I'm talking about. We talk about that in class all the time. So our goal today is to figure out, I have my little victim over here, Brett. He's going to come up here in just a second, and we're going to do a couple assessments on him. Sorry, I'll introduce him a little bit. And we're going to, by the end of this session, hopefully have a little bit of a better idea of what we're going to do for Brett. Now, some of the stuff we're going to do for Brett, I'm going to make up just to kind of make some points, but we're going to try to find out by the end of today what specifically we would send Brett home with, or what our next meeting might look like when he shows up and actually hands me a check to work with me, right? So,
money.
That's right. Sorry, I had to put my little royalty up there. Cartoon. Thought that was perfect. Okay, wait. Here we go. Okay, so where do we start with an assessment? Put some stuff in the chat box if you're familiar with assessments at all. What type of assessments have you heard about when it comes to going in and meeting with a trainer the first time? What do you picture? What do you see them doing when they're trying to do an assessment on you? Any thoughts? Don't be shy. BMI, okay, good. We'll talk about BMI. Weight, it's always about the body index, right? Or the body composition. Nutrition, well, nutrition isn't really an assessment. It might be a consultation, but we're talking about physical tests that we actually do to somebody. Height, yep. Medical history, very important, yep. You guys got some ideas here. Everyday activity level, absolutely. That's really going to be important. Very good. He's got this. Goals? Yes, Blythe. That's probably one of the most important things we're going to talk about today. It's going to make or break your program. Measurements, yes. Cardiovascular level, exactly. We could go on flexibility. Now you're on a roll. Right, we've got cardiovascular tests. We've got flexibility tests. We have strength tests. We have endurance tests. We have postural assessment tests. We have body composition tests. You name it, we've got it. Obviously, we can't do every one of these tests on everybody in one session, or else we'd spend a whole, day on just assessment. And should we, right? If you're coming in and your goal is weight loss, do you think we would do a 1-rep max bench press test? Probably not. So those are the kind of things that we're going to talk about today. But what it all comes down to is where somebody wrote up their goals and your medical history. So the most important part of an assessment, no matter how great we are at doing all of our tests, is the consultation and the relationship that we develop with somebody on that first meeting. Most trainers miss it, right? They get this little health history form. Oh, no drugs, good. No injuries, good. Check, check, check. Okay, let's get started. So what we normally spend a lot of time in is how we interview a client, how we find out exactly what their history is and where they're headed. Because if we don't know that, we're going to make the wrong program, right? And here's typically what happens with people. They come in to meet with a trainer and they say, oh, I really want to lose weight. Well, tell me about your past. Well, in the past, my trainer had me eat 500 calories a day, and I was doing cardiovascular 2 hours a day, weight training 5 days a week. And how'd that work out for you? Well, it was great. I lost weight, but I was exhausted and I was miserable and I was crabby and I just couldn't keep the weight off, right? And so I'm here. I really want something different. Here's the way it usually goes. Okay, well, here's what we're going to do for you. I want you to come in 5 days a week. I'd like you to eat 700 calories a day. We're going to have you do cardio an hour and a half a day, and we'll do strength training 5 days a week, right? We just reiterate back to them what they just told us didn't work for them. It's like the definition of insanity. And the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. But so many trainers only see what's in the media or only see what other trainers are doing. They're not current, and they don't know how to pick and choose what's individual to their client. Make sense? I don't know if you've seen that before, or if you've experienced that before, maybe. All right, so where do we start? The most important thing is we're going to start with talking to Brett. So Brett, come on up here.
All right.
Here's our client. This is Brett.
Hello.
Now, I've had to make some of Brett's stuff up for him.
And I'll be making some stuff up
for the sake of time. Right, but normally, if I had an hour to spend with you, I would spend just an hour on how to teach you how to assess Brett as far as his medical history, his goals, and things like that. But we're going to assume that Brett has no health issues. So normally you'd have a nice form that would ask him all about past medical issues, medications, things like that, right? We can't go forward if Brett has any cardiovascular issues, right? So do you have any history of cardiovascular problems?
There was a time when I had high blood pressure, but no longer. So.
Nice. Brett's been working out.
Not recently.
So, but you want to spend a lot of time here. And one of the things, like I said, if we had it longer, I would show you how to assess. We would ask him about family history. Anybody in his family that's had a heart attack before certain ages. So the first thing that we're going to do is rule out to make sure he's even safe to go through our assessments. Sounds kind of silly, right? But I mean, sometimes we have seen people in gyms right during an assessment go down with a heart condition or a heart issue, something like that. Past injuries, I put yes, only because I'm going to assume you've had at least some past injuries.
I really haven't, although I do have some back issues, but that's genetic. So.
Okay. So normally I would say, well, tell me more, Brett. Tell me about your back issues. If you feel comfortable telling
I do. As a matter of fact, one thing that's very pertinent to this, one of the things that I've always had people try and get me to do a million of is squats. They hurt because of the way my back and my neck are aligned in my spine. And so that has always been a painful thing. So the moment someone brings it up, my anxiety starts going through the roof. So that's something just to be aware of. But other than that, it's something that I feel like I need to strengthen and that I know that I can help by strengthening lower back, those muscles pulling tighter, that kind of thing. At least that's what I think. I'll let you figure that out. Here I am self-assessing.
And see what he just did there? That's where one of the things we have to be aware of with training is when the client tries to tell us what we should do. And I'm serious about that, actually, because they will come in. And a good trainer would say, okay, Brett, you're right, I agree. A great trainer would say, well, Brett, let's do some further tests and let's determine. And Ruben knows where I'm headed with this right now, Ruben, not to keep picking on you. But Ruben, just on that, is probably already thinking in his head, I know what we need to do. I know exactly which tests, right? Because he's been with us for a while. So I would normally spend a little more time talking to him about genetic factors or what's going on with his back. But so now we know we have an injury to deal with, or some past injuries, right? So as I'm asking these questions, I'm formulating in my mind, I better do this assessment. I don't need this assessment today, but I should probably do this assessment. So right off the bat, I'm thinking we definitely need to do a postural assessment on Brett, because he may think that it's the squats that are hurting him, but it could be that he has muscular imbalances, which we spend a lot of time in our program talking about, and we know how to assess for that. How about medications? I'm going to assume none.
We'll call it none.
None, okay.
And Blythe, I will try to talk louder so that you guys can hear me better.
Oh, me too. Oh, Brett, okay. That's because I'm hogging the microphone.
They're hearing you okay, apparently.
I'm very loud. Medications, but same thing with medications. Trainers seem to say, go through a medical history form. Oh, you take albuterol, great. You take this, great. And they have no idea what those medications are. One of the most important things in health history is to make sure you understand what medications, what the side effects are, right? So if you don't know what the medication is, you need to ask or go look it up and make sure you know the side effects. Any thoughts on why? Why would that be so important? And most of the time trainers just rip right over it. Ruben's writing to me. Anybody else want to take a guess?
I've got an idea, but
yeah?
I know some medications you're not supposed to be much out in the sun.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So
well,
maybe
hopefully we're not.
Depending on what the workout is and where you're having them do it.
Exactly. Side effects. Exactly. Side effects. And more specifically, also, if somebody, as Ruben's pointing out, if somebody's on a potentially like a beta blocker, they do have heart issues, and let's say you decide to do a cardiovascular test on them, and you're trying to get their heart rate up, and you've got the treadmill cranked up, at like 10 miles an hour, and he's on a medication that's controlling his heart rate, poor Brett's going to pass out before we ever get the information because the medication is controlling his heart rate. So we don't want to do that to him. So one of those things you want to spend a lot of time on is asking about medications and understanding them. Never be embarrassed to say you don't know. Now, these next two are really the questions that are going to lead to the major assessments that we're going to spend time on today. Is we want to ask our potential clients about their lifestyle and their hobbies. So I know a little bit about Brett's lifestyle because I know that he works here and he works a lot of hours. And I think that you spend a lot of time on the phone and at your desk, right? Yep. So that's already giving me some information about some assessments that I want to do. But tell me a little bit more, what kind of hobbies? What do you do when you're outside of Bryan University?
I wish I had more physical exercise hobbies. Most of it's done around the house. A lot of things, inside and outside projects. I keep myself active, but not doing nearly the amount of hiking and walking and things like that I actually enjoy. Okay. So I've been out of a routine with exercise for quite a while, which is one of the things I'm talking to you about. Excellent. At least, so to speak. Yes.
Now, to hear what he's doing again, you probably don't, but I do. When people come to see you, they tell you what they think you want them to be. They tell you what they think you want to hear, right? He's telling you about the things he should be doing, but I want to know a little bit more, really, what is he doing? I'm looking for habitual movement patterns. I'm looking for things that he does over and over that might affect his posture, which affects why it hurts when he does a squat. I'm digging a little bit deeper. So it's great what you want to do, but give me an example of what a Saturday might look for you.
Typical Saturday, I will sleep in for the most part, because usually I'm pretty tired by the end of the week, so I'll sleep in a bit, probably spend more hours in the bed than I should on that morning. I will get up and typically run a few errands to a few stores, so I'm driving around, running in and out of stores, buying some things, refilling my water gallons that are 5-gallon things here and there.
You're a shopper.
Yes, I do enjoy shopping. I will typically go by my mom and dad's because my dad will always have some sort of project he needs where I get under a sink and help him on a leak or something like that. It seems like every other weekend there's something there. Then I'll usually come home, do my own yards.
So he's pretty active, really. So Brett thinks he's not very active, but I'm hearing this thinking Brett's actually pretty active. He's doing yard work, he's running errands, right? So in other words, I could spend all day on this, but I'm digging and I'm asking him more and more so I'm getting a better picture of what his activity level really looks like. The other thing is I'm finding out what his interests are. And why would that be important? Why do I care if he enjoys shopping? Or why do I care if he enjoys working in the yard? Exactly, Rachel. Target his workouts. That's right. Not all workouts have to be in the gym, right? Boring trainers lift weights, do cardio. Creative trainers incorporate Brett's interests in helping him maintain his program. So that's excellent. Good answer, Rachel.
And you just said something that just keyed me in on something else that's a real problem for me. I have 3 daughters who like to shop a lot more than I do, and usually in places I don't want to shop, so I'm standing. And I find if I stand very long on a hard surface, and I'm talking not very long, really, it becomes excruciatingly painful, where I have to find a seat somewhere.
See, we're getting more information from Brett now. So clearly, his posture, in my opinion, is playing a role in what's going on with his back, between being in a job where he's in the same position over and over, and then some of his activities of daily living. Hopefully we can help Brett out. We're not doctors, right? We're not physical therapists, but we might now be able to have some information put together to help accentuate Brett's life, right? In other words, Brett may come in hoping to get a huge chest because he's got a reunion coming up and he wants to impress some pretty chick, but I know now that we're going to help Brett get there eventually, but we got to get Brett healthy first and make sure he's ready for that. Sorry, I do that to everybody.
There's one waiting to get in, so I'm going to allow. There we go. See if that helps.
Oh, got it. Sorry.
All right. Sorry.
All right. Feel free to stop me once I start talking. I get going, as you can tell. So.
And I'm trying to be quiet because I'll usually do the same.
All right. So the bottom line with where do we start is we've got to interview. We've got to dig so that we can make the right choices. If we put somebody in a day's worth of testing, they might leave discouraged, right? We've done a body fat assessment, strength test, cardio assessments. They're exhausted. They may never want to come back. We want to choose wisely our baseline tests, right? So we want to choose tests that are going to match what his goals are so that we have a measuring stick. And that's the whole idea with assessment, is having a baseline for us to compare. Not only because we care about Brett's future and his success and his happiness, but we need Brett to keep paying us. I mean, I'm just going to say it. We have to make a living doing this. And we all get in it because we want to save the world. But on the other hand, to save the world, we've got to take care of ourselves. So we want to make sure that whatever we're doing is measurable so that we can justify our paycheck. Because Brett works hard, and he trains with me 3 days a week and writes a check to me, I want to know that he's getting his money's worth, right?
And I feel like and I'm happy to pay you if I'm getting that. So.
Right, exactly. So where would we start? I'm going to treat Brett as if Brett is our typical client that comes in to see us. The majority of people, well, what do you think? What do you think the main thing most people are looking for when they come to you as a trainer? What is the main common goal for almost everybody?
Is that my guess?
You're right. We're all writing. Weight loss. Weight loss. See, you didn't have to think, did you? Weight loss. Weight loss.
I want to look like a fitness model.
That's right. You already do, Brett. So exactly, or their perfect body, some type of physique change that we're looking at. So today what we're going to focus on, most people want to lose weight, so we're going to start by talking quickly about body composition testing. And then on top of that, we really want to keep everybody safe and strong. So we're going to talk about body composition and postural assessments pretty quickly. Rachel's going far now, perfect body. But hopefully, Rachel, we're going to teach them that we want them to be healthy and love themselves, right? So somebody mentioned BMI when we first logged in. Who was that? Who feels confident or comfortable telling me why you chose BMI and what do you know about BMI? I don't know if I'm taking too long. Okay. All right. So Ruben says on here, I hate BMI. And the only reason I brought it up is because somebody mentioned it. But BMI is a way we take, we try to figure out somebody's body composition and we rate them on obese, not obese, whatever. But what we do normally is we teach calipers. We do skin fold testing. So we have our little electrical ones that most gyms carry, right, where they do bioelectrical impedance, and they're great for convenience. But the most effective and best way to do body fat testing is with calipers. Not because the results are so accurate, but because the change is accurate, right? So we know that if the same person does calipers on Brett one day and then I do it again 3 months later, it's not the actual numbers we get that are so perfect, but it's the change, the weight, the gain or loss is very specific and very good. So what we're going to do with Brett is I'm just going to kind of show you the sites. I don't have calipers with me right this very minute, but I'm going to kind of give you an idea of what taking caliper testing would look like, okay? So basically with body fat testing, what we're going to do is we're going to do all of our measurements on the right side of the body, okay? We're going to make sure that Brett, I don't mind if I touch you. It's not very touchy-feely. We're going to make sure that Brett doesn't work out before he does his body fat testing. That's one of the biggest things you'll see in testing is that people will come to you and say, oh, can you do my body fat? And they're all, they think they're feeling skinny because they just sweat. And so they're excited to get their body fat done. Well, unfortunately, after workout, your body actually swells with fluid, so you don't want to do it right after workout. So we're going to take our measurements on Brett's right side of the body, make sure he hasn't worked out, okay? So, and what we're going to tell Brett is that although the number we get may not be perfectly accurate, it's going to give us a baseline. It's all about creating baselines so that we know we have a place to measure Brett in a month to see if my workouts are working for him and his nutrition plan. So, a couple sites that we do, I'm just going to show you a few of them. Is we're going to, it looks like you might have been working out.
Definitely was not working out.
I'm going to have you turn just kind of the camera here, Brett. First, we're going to start with the tricep. And all you're doing with body fat is you're finding a place. You're going to relax. They're always going to want to flex their muscles. Do you mind if I really see that?
Feel free.
Just a little bit here. Yeah. So what you're going to do with body fat testing, the biggest thing is you have to be confident with it. And that's what we learned in technique. And all we're going to do is be pulling away his subcutaneous fat from his muscle. Now, Brett's a pretty lean guy, so this is going to be easy. His fat pulls away pretty easily. That sounds really bad, but that's a good thing. The leaner somebody is, the easier their skin, I should say, pulls away from the muscle. So Brett's going to be easy. Look how easily that pulled away. But if somebody's obese, sometimes it's harder because the fat grows into the muscle and we can't get a good grip on it. And so what we want to do is make sure that we're coming in, we're finding our landmark. So for a tricep measurement, we're going to put our pinky up on the shoulder and our pinky on the elbow, and we're going to meet in the middle, and we're just going to pull the fat away. And now I know that I only have fat, and then we'd have calipers, and we would just measure it right there, right? That's all there is to body fat testing. We have a couple different sites. We might take a site right at his abdomen. So we would basically go on the side of his belly button, and same thing, we would pull away from the muscle and take a reading right here. Okay. Another place we would measure possibly would be on his back of his, I'm not going to use the anatomical terms and confuse you right now, but we would find the edge of Brett's scapula, and we would come across here and pinch in a diagonal line, right? So basically we're finding certain places on the body where people typically carry fat. And what we're going to do is take 3 readings at each site. So we're going to go around the body 3 times. We don't do it 3 times in a row because as we pinch, we're going to accumulate fluid in the area. We're going to go around, and then all we do is we have charts that we compare it to. And so what they did to come up with these numbers is they did body fat testing on thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and they just created these norms. There's not a ton of science behind it. They're basically just comparing you to other people in the world, and that's how they come up with these charts. It's as simple as that. So some charts are made for 3 sites, some are for 6 sites, some are for 7 sites, but that's the kind of stuff that when we do the practical side of this class, you would learn how to do. But essentially, we would find these numbers. We would look on Brett's age and the sum of the numbers that we have, and we would compare it to a chart, and it would give us a rating of what his body fat would be, right? Yep. Now, if I had more time, I'd take you through the whole thing, but I don't. What's important about this, one, is to be careful about rating people. When we come in, especially somebody who's obese or very overweight, you know, they know they're overweight, so you have to be very sensitive in how you handle it. And what I tell people with body fat, the number we get today isn't important. What we're looking for is a number that's going to change and to see if you're progressing. But on top of that, in addition to having their body fat reduced, what we're looking for is we can also calculate their lean body mass. In other words, we can calculate their fat percentage compared to their lean tissue, their muscles, their bones, and their internal organs, right? So with weight loss, our goal is to bring, if Brett were overweight, but he's perfectly fit, if Brett were overweight, our goal would be to bring his body fat down, which is important, but what's more important is to bring his lean body fat up. Now we're increasing Brett's metabolism. The more muscle he has on his body, the more calories he's going to burn throughout the day. The best thing about that, guys, is that when we start talking about increasing lean tissue, we're talking about strength training. We're talking about high intensity work, things that are hard for people to do on their own. And now we've justified our services, right? We can tell anybody to go eat however many calories and do cardio. But when we start talking about increasing muscle mass through high intensity exercise, strength training, the majority of people don't know how to do that on their own. Now we're starting to justify our services. So when I do body fat, I kind of steer away from the body fat number. And if it's in a sales situation where I'm trying to get this client, I really focus on that lean tissue number. That's the really most important number. Muscle is more dense than fat, so weight is not everything. Well, right, exactly. You don't ever say muscle weighs more than fat. But you're right, muscle's more dense, exactly. So you might find with somebody, they might lose 3 dress sizes, right? But they may gain a dress, no, what am I saying? They might lose 2 or 3 dress sizes, but their scale weight might come up. And that's where being a great personal trainer comes in, because you'll be able to counsel them on what's happening there. And for most people, they put on muscle much quicker than they lose body fat. And so with women in particular, they tend to give up, right? They say, oh, I'm getting so big, I can't lift weights anymore. But if they would wait it out, as that metabolism starts to come up and their body fat comes down, it starts to even out again. So women oftentimes think they're putting on a bunch of muscle, when in reality, they're just putting on a little bit more muscle than faster than the body fat is coming down, and so they give up. And that's a big mistake. Make sense? So that's just kind of our idea of what we do with body fat. It's more than just giving them a number. It can be a way to justify your sales, but it can also be a way to encourage somebody to have long-term weight loss. All right? All right, so I'm just going to go over one last assessment since we're already getting along here. Probably the most important assessments that we feel we do around here and that we teach, we'll go beyond that, is postural assessments. And so we teach to the OPT model. So our students learn all about the OPT model here, and that's NASM's progression for strength training or for exercise in general. And the whole idea is, in addition to help somebody look pretty, we want to make sure that they are healthy and that they're moving efficiently. And that's what we care about, because if somebody gets hurt, they're not going to keep training with us. So one of the most important assessments that we're going to do is just take a look at Brett, and we're going to try to determine, based on how he stands and how he does a couple movements, which muscles in his body are overactive, meaning tight, and which muscles are underactive or weak. So most people come to you, just like Brett tried to do to me in the beginning, and they tell you what they want. This is what I want. I want a big chest. I want to lose this. I want to do that. But what we need to do is give them what they need. It's very important, because they will get what they want if they get what they need first. And that's what a postural assessment will do for you. All right, so for fun, we're just going to take a look at Brett here. And Brett, I just want you to stand in front of the camera. I want you to turn sideways. And those of you, I mean,
I'm trying not to stand up straight. So.
What would you say? If you saw Brett right here, I mean, well, how does this posture look in general from the side? Those of you who know anything. And Aaron, be nice. And scooch back even further, Brett. That way.
That way?
There you go. What do you guys notice? Anything? I know.
Try it on that wall.
Huh?
Try it on the other wall.
Oh, because the shirt. Okay, yeah. We're gonna move the camera over. Good idea. There we go. Stand sideways. Anybody notice anything? Aaron says you're slouched.
I see a big gum.
That's just the camera. Ruben says not bad, and Ruben's an expert, so you should be proud. Shoulders are back. Okay, head is far forward. Well, Aaron's coming after you.
No, that is one of the family history days.
Excellent. Actually. Come back over here. Okay, so those little things, he actually does have pretty good posture, to tell you the truth. Come back over here. But what that information does for me is, I would agree at looking at him, he's a little rounded on his shoulders. Probably because he sits at a desk a lot and he's on the phone a lot, right? So he's got a little bit of rounding of the shoulders. Other than that, he looks pretty good. But what you'll find is, men in particular, and people that work desk jobs come to us in this kyphotic posture, right? They're kind of rounded over like this. And they come to you and they say, hey, I got a reunion coming up. I want a big chest. Can you help me get my chest big? And they're already standing like this, right? So we keep working on their chest. They're going to go further forward. We want to help balance Brett out. So what we would learn from this information is that we would be able to look at Brett and say, okay, his head's a little bit forward. Someone pointed that out. And he's a little bit rounded in his shoulders. So what I know Brett needs to do, Brett's probably been overworking his chest, trying to get pumped up. So most people would say, oh, let him do bench press. I'd say, Brett, let's take a break on bench press for a while. And what we need to do is stretch Brett's chest, right? And we need to work on strengthening his back muscles, because most people want to train their pretty muscles in the front. Once again, this is what's going to set you apart from a good trainer from a great trainer, is that we can look at Brett and say, listen, trust me, we'll work on your chest, but we need to get you balanced first. So we need to get you upright. We need to get your back strengthened. We need to get your anterior delts and your pecs stretched. And now we can start working on building that chest, because we have you in balance. We're going to have less chance of injury. We're going to have, he's going to look a lot better when he stands, stuff like that, right? But that's the whole idea behind a postural assessment, is to come up with a strategy. We're not just going to give everybody a bench press. We're not going to give everybody a squat. His squat hurts. We're going to look at his specific needs based on his posture and come up with a personalized strategy just for him. One more real quick before we go. Brett, I'm going to have you go back over by that wall and have him sideways. And what I want you to do, Brett, is I want you, I know you hate these, I want you to put your hands up by your ear. Now watch him carefully. And all I want you to do is come down and squat 2 or 3 times. Do it again. Good. Now a little further. Okay, now face the camera. Don't rip your pants, okay? Let's try it again. Okay. Keep your arms up and squat down. Up the tables away. Scoop up just a little bit. I'm sorry. Now, if you were, yeah, there you go. Squat down. Excellent. Now, you can't see him really. You can't see him really great in the camera, but Ruben's done enough to see Ruben saying knees bow out, forward arm tilt, heels come off the ground. all that stuff that Ruben has learned how to do, Ruben could get Brett in a room now and write him a fantastic program.
I don't know if I like this Ruben guy.
Ruben would say, and I can see why his squat hurts, because he's leaning forward because he's trying to protect his back, right? So we have so many ways we could fix you, Brett. We could work on stabilization exercises. We can work on postural muscles, right? Ruben's just chomping at the bit right now because he knows that he can help him. One of the biggest things that we saw, and I agree with him, is he has tight calves. He had a hard time coming down because his calves are so tight. So long story short, I can teach a whole class on this, but the bottom line is he told me something important when he got here. Squats hurt. My back hurts. When I stand with my client and with my daughters while they're shopping, my back hurts. We can't diagnose. We can't say, hey, you've got this problem, but we can say, hey, I have a program that might help with some of this stuff. I need you to go check with your doctor first to make sure everything's okay. But instead of just giving him a cookie cutter program where 12 bench presses, 15 rows, 15 bicep curls, I have a specific strategy now that I can give him very specific exercises to correct his posture, put him back into balance, and hopefully alleviate some of his pain. Now, that was a really crash course on postural assessments. Like I said, we spend a good 3-4 weeks on this stuff, analyzing it and figuring out which muscles are overactive and which muscles are underactive. Cool thing about it is you end up creating great programs for your clients, but it's also fun. It's like putting together a puzzle. How boring is it if we walk in and train everybody exactly the same like most trainers do? It's so boring. When you know how to do this kind of stuff, I know exactly what kind of program I would put Brett on right now, just based on the little bit of information that he's given me. And that's it for today. Awesome. We'll add on to this in future podcasts or whatever these are, right? So any questions before we go? I know I went through that kind of quickly, but I just wanted to give you an introduction.
I'll move on so you can answer their questions.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to kind of give you a brief introduction so you had an idea of what the beginnings of an assessment might look like. We should shoot, Brett. I just now saw that.
I apologize. One thing I forgot, there are reps available, admissions reps, to be able to answer some specific questions that way. So if you need that, or if there are questions about the program in general, enrolling, that kind of thing, let us know in the box here, and Aaron or one of those that are working on our side will help you coordinate and get you into a room separate with one of the reps. So feel free to do that. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and turn off the camera at this point, and then let you guys, mark it, put something in the chat if you would like some additional assistance that way, and we will contact you or put you into a room. And so the camera, I believe, is off at this. No, it's not. The camera's still on. There we go. But you'll still be able to hear us. So if you have a need for help that way, just let us know.